to the next slide, we're going to think about group discussion. And this slide from the Education Scotland Group Discussion Professional Learning Resource demonstrates the progression of skills from turn taking right through to the full range of skills on the right-hand side. And also reminds us how we might develop these across the 4 contexts of learning, which sit at the top of the slide there. Thanks, Laura. So starting from the learners, we need to think about the skills they need to develop and talk and what they are learning through the discussion, whether that be another subject, through IDL or another context. And that's that, back to that slide where we're really thinking about those interrelated skills, learning to talk and learning through talk. Next slide. So we're going to take you through a practical example of how we might plan for a group discussion. Imagine you have a group of first level learners, and as part of social subjects they've been learning about the rainforest, and the teacher has planned an activity where they have to contribute their opinions and their ideas about living in a rainforest within a small group. So just thinking for a moment, what might the success criteria for this activity be? So just give you a little moment just to consider, if you were setting up this task, what would success look like for these learners? And then we're going to move on to the next slide, which helps us to think about some prompts for observation. So we are going to share a short film of a discussion around the rainforest, and we'd like you to take a photograph of this slide so that you have it whilst you're watching the film. And this will help you in your observation of learning for this group. Consider some of these prompts across the 4 strands of the Oracy framework. And as you watch the film, you can be focusing on one of the individuals and thinking about what they're doing well and what their next steps might be. So just next slide, just a summary of what we're going to do. So as I said, we're going to focus on one learner from the film clip. We're going to think about what they're doing well, and then we're going to think about what their next steps might be. So at this moment in time, I'm going to ask, Julie is going to share the film for you to watch and to think about with your prompts.
Here's a question. Would you like to live in the tropical rainforest?
Well, I would, but I wouldn't, because all the poison animals and all the dangerous animals that I've heard of, well, kinda would, but not that much.
I would like to, but you would need to have the certain things to live there, because, like Casty said, the dangerous animals, if they were there, you need stuff to protect yourself. But it would be really good if you lived there, because you could still put your, make a house up high, in the trees, on the branches, so that the animals can't get up that high to you.
True. I would like to, but the same as Cassie, I wouldn't really, because there's quite dangerous animals and there's poisonous animals, and you would maybe get poisoned, and then you would need to you'd be ill.
I wouldn't like to, because there's all the wild animals, and then they could
attack you.
Yeah.
Callum?
I kinda would like to, if I could build power cables and buy everything.
It's really good, but you would have to have all the medications to help you, but still, if you had the snakes, it'd be scary.
Yeah, you would need to have all the medications if you catch a disease or anything.
And you would have to have the weapons. I found out in the computer last night that the Yanomami tribe, the poison arrow frog, they hold it very carefully, and then the frog thinks, oh, they're attacking me, and it gives off their poison, and they get their poison dart, and then they go, and it goes and it kills animals. Well, you would have to have the confidence and the courage to do that.
So that film clip was actually taken from the Group Discussion Professional Learning resource. It is a number of years old, but we're very grateful to be able to use it today to provide a typical example of a talk task in a classroom. So thinking about the prompts that we gave you and thinking about that group of learners in the film, what did they do well? Did everyone get an opportunity to contribute? Thinking about how they invited Callum, for example, to take a turn. Did their responses build on each other's ideas? Who do we think did this well? Did they ask questions? Was there anyone that stood out linguistically? Who was using ambitious vocabulary? And how did they show they were listening? And who do we think might need support with this? So I'm just going to pause there and just think about, did you find this framework helpful to identify the learners in this film clip, strengths and next steps? So just to give you a moment just to respond to that question.
We seem to have quite a few people who just joined, Nicola, so it might be good just to have a little recap while people are thinking of something to put in the chat.
Certainly, welcome everyone. I know there was some problems with the link, so we're apologising for that. We do want you to know that this has been recorded, so what you've missed already will be an opportunity to view again. We've covered very briefly why talk is important, and we've moved on to thinking about how we might teach listening and talking skills, and we've started to look at the Voice 21 Oracy framework that was developed with Cambridge University. So we've just watched a film clip and we've been considering how those learners are using talk for learning, and specifically looking at some of these prompt questions just to think about what they were doing well, what their next steps might be, and then thinking about that the different skills that are sitting within the Oracy framework for this group of learners. So thank you to the person that's just been popping in some ideas about how this has been used. So Mr. McAllister, lots of subject-specific language. So for example, chief, frog and poisonous. The boy in the middle was making good use of the tone of his voice, so using the physical strand there. And they appeared to be listening to their peers, looking at them, nodding as they spoke. So there was one girl in the clip that seemed to be blocking out others. So she, that would be maybe a next step for her, just thinking about including others in the conversation. So lots of reflective questions, useful to focus observations. Lots of chat coming now. Useful to be reminded about the final category, social and emotional. Often in the secondary group discussion assessment, this is the bit that gets left out. So that's really helpful. Thanks so much for your feedback there.